Hey everyone, I hope I'm doing this right. Sorry that I'm late. My son plays soccer, and they had individual player meetings with the coaches tonight. It started at 6. I thought for sure we'd be done at 7, but it went a little longer, so it wasn't that I forgot or anything, and so I'm sitting in my car while he's practicing right now. So let's see. I had already fielded one question from someone, and I thought I would go ahead and, just start talking on it, and I'm watching to see if any questions come across. But someone had asked me, what about depleting in peak week, and where do you want to see someone's fasted blood glucose? So I've made the statement that most people you do not, and I say most because I don't like to make blanket statements, but I said that most people you do not need to deplete on zero carbs. Someone's been dieting 16 weeks, busting their ass, they're depleted. They're shredded, they're depleted. So a lot of times I will just have someone train 2 days on their low day. Normally I'm carb cycling at that point. Their low day, they'll train. So that's already pulling because their body is used to training on, let's say 120 carbs, but now they're doing it on 60. That's going to further deplete them, and they're going to be ready for a load after doing that 2 to 3 days. Blood glucose at that point should really be between 70s and 80s. You might have a few that run 83 to 85, but if someone's in shape and they've been dieting hard, they should not be any higher. So they're set up, they should be insulin sensitive, especially after those 2 to 3 lower days of training, and they're ready to go. So that should answer that question regarding. Now, as long as I go ahead and say that, and then Brad Davis, who's a 212 ISBB pro, I hope Brad doesn't mind me talking, but he told me, he said, hey Jason, I'm one of those guys, I don't really go flat. I do better on a really hard depletion. I said, you know what? No problem, Brad. So we did protein and veggies for 2 days and had him train. And then we just loaded in the day before the show, and he was drying hard and it looked great. But a lot of guys, if you go and do that, they're going to go flat beyond what you can fix. So, it's a general statement I made, but there are always outliers, so I never like to say anything as a definite. Someone then asked about fat loading. I don't fat load too many people, but something I do it myself and a few people is I will go keto during their depletion sometimes. So what I do is, it might be like a targeted keto. It's their low day, so let's say I'm using only 60 carbs. I'll go ahead and bump my personal fats up to 120, 130. So what I'm doing is I'm filling up the the fat stores within the muscle, the intracellular triglyceride storage. So that'll be nice and filled. I'm creating a nice insulin sensitive environment, training on a 60 carb day a couple times, and then I go and have my carbs on Friday. So I've filled up muscle fat stores, and now I'm filling up the glycogen stores. So that's something I do with my own personal self. But on some of my clients who may not have the metabolism I have, when they're depleting, I might just leave their fats the same. That's an individual call for the coach. I know I'm very ectomorphic, and while I'm trying to create that super compensation state, I'm actually going to up my fats while I'm doing it, so I don't wither to nothing. But other than that, I very rarely fat load anyone, for a show, just straight up fat load. So I hope that answers that. I saw a question go by: how accurate are the home glucometers? You know what? There's going to be some, sorry about that. There is going to be some inaccuracies with them. They're not 100% accurate. I think a good example would be, I taken mine last week. I was 82 in the morning. I just had my blood work done, my 6-month checkup, and instead of being 83 or whatever it was, I was at 88. And I just did my blood work on Monday. So within 5 days, it was up 5 points. That could have been diet related, but my guess is there's that 5-point variance with the home glucometers, and then actually getting it tested with blood work. But here's the thing: it's like anything, taking body fat skim folds. You're just looking for an average. You're just looking for a gain point. If it's always off, then it's going to be off. Always. So if you were 85 and now you're 100, you've gone up. So it really doesn't matter if it's wrong 5 points one way or the other. So that's that. I hope that answers that question on the home glucometers. I use a True, by the way. I just get a True brand, head up to the pharmacy, and get your strips, and that way you can test your fasted blood glucose, keep yourself healthy. A lot of people seem to be interested in why I do that, and I do it for to keep body inflammation down, to stay insulin sensitive. The more insulin sensitive you are, the more likelihood you're going to build muscle. So hey Lauren Hawkins. You're going to be more insulin sensitive. You're going to be less inflammation all around, which is just healthier. Anytime I get over 100, when I'm pushing myself in the off season with carbs, I go ahead and reset. And I use 100 because that's what the American Diabetes Association says is pre-diabetes. So why would you want to keep yourself in a pre-diabetic state? Doesn't sound too smart to me. So I use 100. And there's outliers. I have guys who are on 600 grams of carbs, and they're literally giving me 72s every week. So, they're staying lean, and I really don't have to reset them. And, hey, more power to them. They're built to grow. But I do have some people in my family with type 2. And so, when I'm pushing in the off-season and 300 or 400 carbs for a while, I do end up over 100 after a while. And I'm taking my GDA max, and everything like that. But, eventually it's going to, and it helps me stay under longer, but you're eventually going to, you're going to go over if you're prone. A lot of this stuff in bodybuilding is if you're prone. So, that's why we watch our blood pressure. Some people are more prone to higher blood pressure. I'm one of them. I was tested the other day in the office. I was 125 over 78. Not too bad, especially for me right now. I'm pushing my weight up a little bit more. I'm looking to maybe hop in a pro show in October. That'd be my debut. So yeah, that covers that. I'm trying to think if there was any other questions in that. Here's one from Becca Do. Hey, Becca. Where do I get a glucose meter? And I don't have one. How much are they usually? So go ahead to CVS or Walgreens, any of those places. That's what we have around here in Kentucky. I don't know, being there in Wisconsin, what y'all have. I think you're in Wisconsin, aren't you, Becca? Anyways, but just go to one of those. I get a True brand. That's the one I use. And then here's where they get you. When you head to the pharmacy, the glucometer is only like $15 to $19, but the strips are $30 to $50. I mean, you get about 50 of them, 60 of them, so they last a minute. But yeah, the strips. So plan on spending probably $50 to $60 between the machine and the strips. That's probably a good estimate of what you're gonna have invested in it. But it's worth it. The more health markers we can take, the longer you do this, the better, in my opinion. So, and if you're a bodybuilder pushing size and weight, you should have a blood pressure monitor too. Yeah, yes, Wisconsin. Oh, and it's Dewey. Sorry about that. So there, that answers that for you, Becca. Let's see if anyone else has any questions here. One from Tommy. Do you fluctuate the type of carbs, for example, red potatoes or different types of rice to keep insulin sensitivity in check? Well, unfortunately, I've found that, those types of small details generally aren't going to do a whole lot. So what I'm saying is, for most people, it's going to be the glycogen load for the day. So, if I'm doing 400 carbs, I could do the lowest glycemic carbs possible, and if I'm already inching up, I'm going to keep inching up. It's all going to turn to glucose in the body anyways. So, I don't think that you're going to be able to split hairs like that and keep yourself sensitive. Now, say you're not really pushing your glycogen load, then sure, anytime, you choose a lower glycemic carb, your spikes might not be as high. But in order to keep yourself, from going over 100, I don't think you're going to be able to just change the sources of your carbs and get back under. And that's the way I took your question. But sure, if someone just ate Skittles as their carbs versus oats, and we're talking 300, the person eating Skittles is going to go over 100 fasted blood glucose and get into that pre-diabetic range, obviously faster than the person using oatmeal. But the person, pushing 300, if that's going to push them over, it's still going to do it. And that's my opinion and what I've kind of found. Yeah, Steven, I'd like to kind of not do that at the moment. Sorry, man. You can PM me, though. Anything you got. Tell Catherine hi. Anyone else have any questions out there in Facebook land? And again, I apologize for being late. So I know some people probably came on and then jumped off. But it wasn't... I wasn't trying to be neglectful. I just had to deal with the meeting. I'm just kind of sitting here to see if anyone's got anything else. I'm not usually a huge bullshitter, so if you guys got something, I'll be good at answering it. But if there's nothing else, I'll probably log off here early. But I plan to do this till 8. If any of y'all have more questions out there, let me know. I don't think there was anything else on the thread when I posted the time. There was the question on the fat load, and then there was the question on peak week stuff. What do I think of sweet potatoes as a carb source? I think they're great. They're healthy, loaded with vitamins and minerals. If you tolerate them, have at it. I actually bloat a little bit from them, get a little bit gassy, so I don't actually eat much sweet potato. But, as far as micronutrients and, a good, low glycemic carbohydrate, they're great. I really like all potatoes. I love white potato, too. It's high in potassium. If you tolerate them well, having those pre-workout with some salt, great pumps. Is there a time period after fat? Missed it. Man, these are moving fast. How do I get back? Thoughts on berberine with carb meals? Berberines great. It's actually in my GDA Max. Berberine's anti-inflammatory, and it's a great, glucose disposal agent. How often do you check blood glucose when you are trying to slowly reverse and go into a gaining phase? I have my off-season people who are really going to be pushing food do it once a week. That's enough to get a gauge. They keep it on their chart. I don't do it with all my clients. It's the ones who are going to be pushing a huge amount of carbohydrates or a lot of food. Now, if someone wants to learn it, and even though I don't think it's something necessary for them, I will teach them. But I don't always have all my clients check it. A lot of times it's the ones who I know are going to be pushing food pretty high. And then I'll go ahead and check it to make sure that we're staying good. But some people are newer in the sport, and I don't always bog people down with more intricate details right away. I let them get their feet wet before I'm doing more advanced techniques with them. A lot of people seem to be on the red meat train lately, especially for off season. I personally am not a fan. Do you think there's really any benefit versus white meats? That's a good question. Benefits? There's a little more creatine, but you can take it. It's harder on the digestion. And a lot of times when people are having digestion problems, I pull the red meat right away. If you're trying to gain, you are going to get a little more saturated fat from it, and those are a little more anabolic, a little more inflammatory. And, when you're trying to gain, you want a lot more of the inflammatory fats. But I'll be honest with you, if we're taking a 1-year period, do I think the person who ate all chicken for their protein, where someone else ate beef, I don't think it's gonna change. I think it's, I eat beef once a day, 96 lean, and I think that's fine. I think a diverse profile of proteins is the best way to go. I think anyone who's eating 6 meals of beef a day is asking for health problems, whether it's just digestion. So I wouldn't go that crazy with it. But I really don't think there's I think it'd be splitting hairs, honestly. How low do you go with fats ever for anyone? Is there a limit that you will not go below? Women only. That's a really good question. Here's the deal. I mean, we need fats, right, for hormonal production. But there are people out there who don't process fats as well or lean out on them as well. if I notice someone isn't processing fats as well, I will do some things to help the gallbladder, like ox bile, or a product from Metagenics called lipogen. And that'll help them process them better and sometimes lean out better. But honestly, I've taken women down to 22, 25 grams of fat. There's a few women I've taken to trace fats and done protein veggies. So, you know, the harder the diet, the longer they're going to need to recover, and they might have some hormonal issues afterwards. And a lot of times I tell my clients, I say, hey, we got to get really tough here. You know, this might mean that you're going to need a full year before you even think of dieting again, if you want to get the type of condition you need. And, you know, I let them make a decision, the last final call on that. But yeah, I mean, I've taken women to trace fats. Where do I think it's probably healthiest to stay? No lower than probably 28 to 30, but that's not perfect for everyone, unfortunately. You know, some people are more gifted in this sport. You know, they stay leaner easier, they lean out easier, they're more built to be on stage. So those are conversations that a coach should be having with you. But yeah, I'd say 28 to 30 is probably the lowest for health. But I'll take people lower. It's just the way it is. Looking at progress pics, how do you tell based on the body if you should adjust carbs versus fat or even protein, I suppose? I'll be honest with you, Becca, I don't really have a formula for it. I wish I could tell you, well, if I see this, do that. I get a feel for working with someone if they're more of a carb processor or more of a fat processor. So, you know, you just kind of get a feel for it. But I can tell you, the more endomorphic someone is, the more I'm going to keep their fats a little higher and pull carbs. And the more ectomorphic someone is, you know, I might get their fats down to a base level of 28, and then I'm just going to pull the carbs, and I won't leave their fats too high. But, you know, you're always manipulating one or the other macronutrient. Protein, I usually don't mess with too much. I usually set it at 1 to 1.25 times body weight for a woman and just leave it roll. But, you know, if I have to pull their carbs and their fats really low, then their protein's going to go back up. So, you know, no macronutrient is safe to not be touched, but generally I'm manipulating fats or carbs. I would say more of what I manipulate is carbs. I generally try to set protein where I think it needs to be and generally try to set fats. And then I'll manipulate carbs more. And then a lot of times towards the end of the diet, if carbs or say fats are still at like 40 for a woman, I might say, all right, it's time. I'm gonna go ahead and drop these to 28 and create that deficit there. Leslie, I see you, your question about spilling over. That was totally fats. You don't process fats. We've already found out your gallbladder's got, you know, slow processing there with the way you handled vitamin D. I talked to that doctor for you, and, you know, he right away was like, oh, yeah, something's up with our gallbladder. You know, no one should ever handle 5,000 IUs of vitamin D that way. So, you know, based on what happened with your fats during our peak week, I just won't give you many fats anymore. That was when I depleted you pretty hard. I put more fats in, and you just didn't process them well. So then when we added carbs, you bloated. It won't ever happen again. But luckily I fixed you, and you looked awesome. But yeah, it won't ever happen again. You just don't process fats well. I know I've missed a few that were moving so fast and people were logging in. If I missed your cue, you can retype it. I probably have a way to go back and look, but I have no idea. This is the first time I've used this, and I'm just watching as things come on and trying to read and talk, and I missed a few. So if you want to retype them, I'm looking right now, and I'll answer them. What do you think of a 5x5 workout plan for an athlete or off-season bodybuilder? What do you think of a 5x5 workout plan? I'm not following. Maybe that's some type of lingo for some type of workout plan out there, but I'm not following it. 5x5 what? 5 sets and 5 reps? Or give me a little more there, Steven, and I'll try to give you a little feedback there. Did you might have missed it. Hey, Steven, if you can clarify that question, I'll try to answer it for you. Okay, he's asking me to hold on. Anyone else have any other questions out there? We're at 6:40, or I'm sorry, 7:40. Can you talk about digestive issues and how it relates to progress and training? So, oh gosh, I could go on forever. Just put it, let's start with just saying the gut is the second brain. So, if your digestive system is off and horrible, you're not going to make good gains. Your body's going to start to be inflamed. You're not going to be processing your food well and digesting it. So honestly, I've gotten more and more as I've got into, as my career in coaching has progressed, I've gotten more and more strict about making sure diet and digestion is on track. And I send out a stress questionnaire, and, I ask, like, are you bloating? Are you gassy? Are you having all these different digestive issues? And then I work to fix those right off the bat. There's so many different things that you can do to help digestion, but some of the things I do is, I might add pancreatin enzymes, apple cider vinegar capsules. Those are awesome for me. Now Foods makes a brand. Makes them. Now Foods is the brand, and they make them, and they're not very expensive. I'll do 4 of those in the morning, and then 2 to 3 with every meal, and I do pancreatin enzymes. And then I also take that lipogen that helps the gallbladder produce more bile. And so my digestion's the best it's been in years. And honestly, I'm making the best gains I've made in years. I know I don't digest fats well because, and the way you can know this is if your stools float, that's from fat. You're not digesting it well. Now I'm able to eat a lot more fats in my diet, which has always helped me grow, but I was always so bloated and just never hungry because of it. But now I can do about 100 grams of fats, getting a lot of almond butter in, a lot of egg yolks, peanut butter, just things that really usually help me grow well. And it's because I've really looked into my digestion and fixing it. I really like that lipogen by Metagenics. You can also add betaine hydrochloric. Metagenics makes one called Metagest. You can do the Metagest test, where you start with 2 to 4, or you start with 2, and if you're not getting any burning, go to 3, and then go to 4. If you start to get a little burning, pull back to the next level, and that's your perfect amount of betaine you should add, and that's going to really help you digest your meats and your proteins, the betaine hydrochloric. How come you are so awesome? Thank you, Lauren. I do my best. Steph might not agree with you, but I appreciate the compliment. And then someone asked something about low carb and high carbs, and I was trying to read it and talk, and I couldn't. But I can scroll down. Thank you, Becca. During a cutting period, is it better to do a high carb, low carb cycle various days of the week, or just pick one day per week for a cheat meal? Elizabeth, I am not big into cheat meals during prep unless what we are doing at that point in time is not keeping enough weight on someone. And what I mean by that is I try to set up a prep so we don't have to lose more than 2 pounds a week. Someone checks in and they're down 4 to 5 pounds that week, and they're like, my strength is bad. A lot of times I'll be like, go get some pancakes, go get a cheeseburger, go get a burrito. But most of the time, I'm going to tell you, you're going to carb cycle, couple mediums, couple lows, and I'm getting more and more big on the 2-day refeeds in a row, especially with women. It works so well to keep their bodies going without having to pull more food down. I'm getting to the point now where on these 2-day refeeds that I really think for women, even though prep might be longer, it makes sense to do no cardio those days and, really load them with Cordy's from New Ethics, my product, and maybe even some ashwagandha, and really suppress cortisol those days, and then they push hard for 5 more days. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of the cheat meals. They're too hard to control. I find with a lot of women, they're going to work a week to just get it back off. I'm not a huge fan unless, like I said, the setup that we have, I somehow undershot, I think works, undershot the calories, and they're dropping too fast. Then to say, whoa, to stop this, normally some junk works. High fat, high carb meal usually helps. So I hope that answers your question. Let me scroll on back down. Yep, just put you on the 2-day refill. Love it. Lots of food, no cardio. Yep, Shelly. It definitely works, especially with women. Like I said, the more I get into helping women with metabolic adaptation, metabolic compensation, it all starts with that cortisol going high and robbing from your progesterone. Then you can't make testosterone, and then you become estrogen dominant, and then your thyroid takes a hit. I'm finding more and more. I'm trying to figure this all out, but the more you can suppress cortisol with women, it's just it's a game changer. When carb cycling, will low days improve insulin sensitivity, therefore help metabolize carbs more efficiently on high carb days? Yes, Tom, to some extent it will. When I find out that I have guys who are prone to their blood sugars raising pretty rapidly in the off season, I actually will really push their carbs hard on training days, and then on their off days, I'll actually put them on a high-fat keto. And I'm finding guys who are trending up to 110s, 120s on fasted blood glucose within 5, 6, 8 weeks of trying to grow are now staying around 90, 85. So that helps a lot. Now, when you're dieting, one of the best ways to reset insulin sensitivity is being a caloric deficit. It's one of the best. So if you're dieting, you should be in a deficit. So the low days aren't going to have as much of an impact because you should already be insulin sensitive after you've dieted for a couple weeks. But yeah, I mean a 150 day compared to a 60 carb day, you're definitely going to create a more insulin sensitive environment the next day after doing the 60 day than you would after a 150 day. Okay, I hope I hit everything. We still have 15 more minutes. I'm going to try to scroll back up and see if any of the ones I missed catch my eye. I know a few did. Let's see here. Here's one I missed, Brandon Smith. Is there a time period after fasted cardio you should eat? That's a good question. I bet that's going to vary from coach to coach. And I would have told you probably 5 years ago that you should just hurry up and eat because you're in a fasted state and you don't want to lose muscle. But now we know people can fast for 36 hours and not lose muscle. So honestly, if you're doing fasted cardio, my fasted cardio isn't crazy. None of my clients are doing running and sprinting. Well, take that back. There are some clients that I have to push hard and they do hits in the morning. But if you're doing fasted list type cardio, where your heart rate's not going over 120 beats per minute, I think honestly you could wait an hour or two and you're going to burn fat better. One thing I've been doing, recently, probably about the last 6 months, and I'm definitely staying leaner and able to get more food in, is I'll fast from say 10 p.m. at night till 11 to 11:30 the next day. I'll get up, I'll take all my health supplements, might take some L-carnitine, and I'll just sit around and work for 3 hours. I wait till I'm just freaking hungry, want that first meal, and then it just seems like the rest of my day, all my meals go down easier. So I'm telling you, after fasted lists, I think you could wait a couple hours and you would burn more fat. Okay, did I miss anything? Oh yeah, so I missed a few. When looking at someone's blood work, is 2 months old results too old for you to work with? It gives me an indication of what's going on, but I truly would prefer to have, recent results, especially if I'm starting with a client and, their intake form says, tried to diet with another coach, but it wouldn't work. And I'm thinking, man, sure, it could have been operator error and their coach wasn't great, but in those cases, I'm like, I'm not putting you back to a diet. I want blood work. If someone wants me to just review cholesterol or something like that, I might go ahead and, give them my opinion based on that. But if I'm talking about someone who's, might have metabolic compensation issues, I'm going to want the recent results. Will this video be saved on your page? Adam, I have no idea. And you can hit me up in the DMs later if you can tell me how to do it. I'm not the most tech savvy guy. So I don't think I'm doing anything to save it on my end right now. And I think these disappear. I'm not sure. Otis. What's going on, Otis? This last prep, I was so close to not making weight. I didn't do the carb load Wednesday through Friday, so I decided to get my carbs in Friday night into Saturday. Can this ever be a good thing, or is this always a no-go? No, notice that happens all the time, especially at these national level shows. I mean, guys are dropping down. You'll have welterweights dropping to lightweight. You have your middleweights dropping to welter. I mean, it's on and on. And so they have to load late. And, there are some people that look best, like me personally, I look best one day after a carb load. So, if you had to make weight Friday morning, or Friday, I don't know what time you guys got to weigh in, if it was 11 a.m. or if it was like 6 p.m. But, no, it can work in plenty of people's favor. Say it was a 11 a.m. weigh-in, you would have all day to still eat. And if it was a 6 p.m. weigh-in, you would just stay up. And, I would have my guy monitoring his blood sugars. I would be making sure that he doesn't go over 130, 120. As long as he's not, I'd keep having him have carbs every 2 to 3 hours, monitoring his pictures. And, we would, once he got over 130, we would be like, he's probably, he's starting to keep, a good amount of glucose unstored. It's shuttling in his bloodstream, so it's not finding a home. And I would switch him over to protein fats and then call it a day and get up and see where he's at. So no, I mean, maybe it's not ideal, but it certainly will work, and it's definitely not something that's a no-go. I mean, because it happens all the time to a lot of guys. I hope that answered your question. I know you ended up winning and kicking ass, so I'm sure everything worked out just fine. Someone just told me this will stay on my page. Thanks, Regina. So I guess people can watch. How would you structure the 2 refeed days for females? Consume maintenance cows? How do you know if the refeed days are needed? Good questions, Tom. So, a lot of times, when someone is 16 weeks out, I don't start with the 2-day refeeds. And the reason is because I generally start with carbs high enough that no one needs to refeed. So, for a female, I might have them at 145 protein, 220 carbs, 40 fats on training, and then I might pull 60 on non-training, and those are their days. I don't refeed because they're plumper. I mean, they've been in off season. They got plenty of, they're getting plenty of glycogen on a daily basis. As I start working those numbers down, and I get closer to, say, 1.25 times their body weight in carbs, I'm going to go ahead and probably set up a 3 medium, 3 low, and then 2 high days. So as I basically get to a point where their calories are getting lower, and we're worried about the metabolism compensating by slowing itself down, and because I'm pushing them harder now, their cortisol is raising, right? They're training more, their cardio is going up, their calories are going down. That's a cortisol creating response. Then I'm thinking, all right, I got to do something to mitigate this. So then I put the 2 refeeds in. It's hard to say if it's at maintenance because as a coach, you never really 100% know maintenance unless you've worked with someone for years. And a lot of times, I'm prepping people that I just, that just signed up with me. And then a lot of times they end up staying. I have a lot of loyal clients. But sometimes it's the first time. So can I say it's maintenance? I don't know. But what I will tell you is, let's say I'm down to medium days at 130, low days are at 70, and then I will probably put those carbs up to 230, 220, and so it's probably going to be a 400 to 500 calorie bump above low days and maybe a 200 to 300 bump above their medium days. So am I at maintenance? Hard to say, but it's definitely a nice little kick in the pants, and then I think I answered how do I know if they're needed. It's as I'm pushing the body more and more. Now, if someone is behind in prep, I might start with that 3 medium, 3 low, and 2 high right off the bat. But if I don't have to, I'm going to start where someone's getting fed enough, carbs daily where I usually don't have to refeed right away. But there are different times, for different things. And, sometimes people, just didn't stay lean enough and they're only giving you so much time. And, if you want to take the challenge on, you might start really hard carb cycling them right away. And then I would use that 2 refeed day. What do you do with females off season? Refeeds or carb cycles needed? So females off seasons, I'm a big proponent in getting cows over 2,000. That's like my rule, and I try to go higher, but I at least want to see 2,000 calories. I'm generally not refeeding, and I'm generally not carb cycling. They're going to have a training day, a non-training day. The non-training day carbs are going to be a good bit lower, maybe 60 to 70. They're going to have training days, and then I let them have a cheat meal. And the cheat meal is obviously spiking calories by at least 500 to 700 above what they're doing. And that's generally how I do it. I don't carb cycle super hard off season, and off season is for getting a little fluffy, getting inflammation down, getting your period back. Too many girls are staying, trying to dance around 1,500 calories, no period. They're trying to look good for Instagram, all this bullshit, and it's creating one non-stop problem. I can't tell you how much shitty blood work I see from females in the fitness industry. It's an epidemic. So that's what off seasons are for: eating, training hard, being curvy, and I think I've said enough. I don't usually do refeeds or carb cycling in the off season. Yeah, you have a long way to go. If you're not near 2,000, work your way up. You're training hard. You're probably training 4 to 5 days a week. And think about it. If you're eating 1,600 calories, 10 times your body weight in calories is not an off season. That's a 4-week out prep point. But I see women time after time, that's where they're at, because they don't want to quote unquote get fat, or they don't want to be a size 3. They want to be a size 0. But then they get metabolic compensation, and then they have to come see me. My son probably won't be back in the car till about 8:10, and since I was late getting on, I will go another 16 minutes if people have more questions, or until he shows up, and then I'll sign off. So does anybody have any other questions for me out there? These have all been good questions, by the way, and I'm happy to answer them. I love this shit. So if you guys got more questions and you're dancing around whether you should ask, just go ahead and ask me. That's why I'm doing this. Regina, you certainly can. You can DM me, and see where you're at and what your goals are, and I'll tell you, kind of where I would take things and what needs to be done. But I usually try to head women up to 2,000 because, most of my clients are wanting to diet again, and you got to get all those female processes working properly, and you got to have the body ready to cut, and so, that's why I go to that range. Any other questions? Let's see. What's your approach to reverse dieting after prep? Okay, so Otis, this has changed over the years. I used to think add a lot of calories and just get back to getting big. And then I kind of went through the, slower reverse. I think the best approach, honestly, is to add at least 500 to 800 calories right off the rip. Go ahead and give your body what it wants. See what it's going to do. If you're going to, a lot of times I find, if you try to reverse too slow, one, you're slowing down hormone restoration. 2, you're just so damn hungry you're eating shit. And none of those are good. So, go ahead and add 500 to 800 calories. Get the cardio down. And, also train only 4 days a week, or take a full week or 2 weeks off. Deload, just go in, train 70, 80%, just kind of let your CNS, recover and all those things. And I would get it up to 500 to 800 first move. And then after that, you can add slower, maybe 100 to 200 calories a week, as long as you're not, throwing on tons of weight, and get it back up. Now, there are times with women, especially if, their diet was super hard and I know they're going to be dealing with metabolic compensation issues, I might take it slower. Some coaches are going to say, no, add 500 to 800 to them, but I know better. So there is no one size fits all to this. But men usually can go ahead and add 500, 800 right away. Actually, with myself, I can add 1,000 and I will barely gain a pound. So it's going to depend, but go ahead and get your body fed, especially for you, Otis. But like I said, there are people who have to go at a slower pace. But at the end of the day, you want to let CNS recover. You want to get the parasympathetic kicking back in, not the sympathetic dominant. You want to get hormones restored, and you want to let the body fat come back up a little bit, women. You want to get your periods back, all those different things, so you got to eat. What would you recommend for females wanting to lose weight, not for a competition though? No clue what to pick for my calorie and macro goals. Don't want to cut too fast and mess up my metabolism. Okay, what would I recommend? So I guess you're talking about calorie and macros. First and foremost, I'd recommend weight training. If you're not doing that, do that first. That's gonna be just a definite. And then as far as calories, it's impossible for me to say because I don't know how many you're taking in. But I guess what I could say is, it takes 3,500 calories burned to burn a pound of fat. So if you're going to do that all from diet, you would pull 500 calories per day and then not really worry about cardio. Or you could pull 300 calories from diet and then do about 200 calories from cardio. And that should produce about a pound of fat a week from where your current calories are. Now, this is assuming your hormonal profile's, healthy and all those things of that nature, but that would at least be a start for you. But I can't give you specific macros because, I don't know where you're at. I don't know any, facts about you. Do you like hitting muscle groups 2 times per week, year round, or is that more for prep? By the way, getting back with you before Junior Nats next year. Perfect, Dominic. So, do I like hitting muscle groups 2 times per week, year round? Well, when I'm controlling someone's training, I'm going to periodize them. So, I'm going to have periods where they're only training 4 days per week, and it's just going to be one body part, and that's kind of be to deload and kind of let the CNS relax. And then if someone has a weak body part, I'm definitely usually going to have them hitting it 2 or 3 times a week. Carbs around, pre and carbs intra, post. Really feeding the body. And then there's more advanced techniques too. But yeah, I'm not going to do that year round without any breaks for sure. But as far as every body part, like right now, I am hitting legs twice per week. It was back last cycle. And I always hit chest twice per week because that's my weakest part. So I always hit that twice a week. But no, I don't hit everything twice a week in the off season. I train 5 days per week, but during prep I do go 6 to 7, and I do hit everything 2 times per week in prep. What do you think about bananas as a carb source? I just had one post-workout with my cream of rice. I wouldn't rely on them as all my carbs in a meal generally, just because it's fructose and it's going to fill the liver, but it's not really doing much to fill the muscle cells. So it's certainly not something I'm going to take pre-workout. Pre-workout I hit cream of rice. Post-workout I do it too. It's fast. It doesn't bloat me. But I threw a banana in with it today. Just ate less cream of rice and had a banana. We had some laying around. But I like fruit for health, obviously, but I don't generally build meals all from fruit. Like, I'll hit blueberries in the morning with my oats, or I'll throw a banana in like I did today with, my cream of rice. Any advice for women with PCOS? Yeah. Inositol is going to be huge for PCOS. Got to get those blood sugars down. Our GDA max is going to be awesome with Cordy's because you can lower cortisol and get the blood sugars down. So, that's the biggest problem with PCOS is, there's a lot of body inflammation and blood glucose is always running really high. So, make sure you get digestion under control as well. Work to get body inflammation down. 4 to 5 fish oils per day. I like the Omegagenics by by Metagenics. I think that's just a really good product. And then the Inocytal, maybe 4 grams or so per day is going to help a lot. GDA Max, and then the Cordy's to keep the cortisol down. That's a good start. Learned a lot just listening to answers to all these questions. Awesome. Great. Thanks. I'm glad to hear that, Leslie. For prep, how often would you advise HIIT cardio per week? Randy, I usually start with 2 sessions of 5 intervals. That's it. And if I could leave it there, I would. But it doesn't always happen in a perfect world. I've sometimes had people do HIIT daily. I've sometimes had people do HIIT in the morning and evening. You do what you got to do when the body's not responding, but generally, I try not to. It looks like my son is calling me. He must not see where I'm at. So I've got to sign off, guys. Sorry if I left anyone hanging. I will do this next week. See y'all later.